So, according to Mike Coppinger and his sources, Andy Ruiz will fight Luis Ortiz in a heavyweight bout on September 4th. Now, this is a fight which has been talked about for a very, very long time. Andy Ruiz has been horrendously inactive since that second fight against Anthony Joshua. In fact, has he only had the Chris Arreola fight since that Anthony Joshua rematch? I think that's all he's had, isn't it? Just the Chris Arreola fight. That's terrible, terrible inactivity for Andy Ruiz. Luis Ortiz, as old as he is, he actually fought Charles Martin a few months back. And has he been more active than Andy Ruiz in that same time frame? Perhaps not. Perhaps there's a similar level of inactivity with the pair of them. But with Luis Ortiz, you'd expect that because he got knocked out badly by Deontay Wilder in their second fight. And he's old, right? And he's never been the world heavyweight champion. Andy Ruiz was the champion for 5 minutes. So you would imagine that he's got a higher profile, and therefore a higher profile fighter really should be more active. He should get more opportunities to be active and so on. But not the case with Andy Ruiz for whatever reason. Is it the fault of PBC? Is it the fault of Andy Ruiz himself? We know he's been working with Eddie Reynoso and trying to get his weight down and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. But if you look at their last performances, Andy Ruiz against Chris Arreola and Luis Ortiz against Charles Martin, I would say that Andy Ruiz was a bit more impressive than Luis Ortiz was. Yes, Luis Ortiz managed to get Charles Martin out of there in the end, but not before he got dropped himself. Now, of course, Andy Ruiz was dropped against Chris Arreola, and he was buzzed multiple times. So it's, I guess, kind of similar that they both looked vulnerable and what have you. But for me, Ruiz showed improvements in there. Maybe not in terms of his punch resistance, which looked a little shaky, but in terms of his skills, in terms of his ability to actually get up on his toes in the second half of the Arreola fight, pop a jab, show some lateral movement. I mean, I never thought I would see that from Andy Ruiz, but that's exactly what we saw. With that being said, stylistically, I can see how Luis Ortiz gives Andy Ruiz problems. If this was a much younger version of Luis Ortiz, of course, I think there'll be a lot of people picking him to win. But this older version who just got dropped, I forget how many times, by Charles Martin, I can't imagine there's going to be as many people picking him, although I'm sure there'll still be some. I can't recall seeing Andy Ruiz face a southpaw before. And with southpaws, it's like it completely throws off what you normally do. So if you're someone that likes to jab a lot, all of a sudden against the southpaw, you're finding your lead hand clashing with a southpaw's lead hand. And they're more used to that, of course, because there's loads of orthodox fighters around for southpaws to fight, right, and to hone their skills against. But it's not the case the opposite way around, that you don't fight that many southpaws when you're an orthodox guy. So you find your lead hand clashes, and the southpaw usually gets the better of it when it comes to the battle of the jabs. So your jab often gets nullified. If you're a guy who likes to throw left hooks, and Andy Ruiz likes to throw left hooks, you often find that the hook isn't there as much against the southpaw. Again, the lead hands are clashing. So you're going to rely on a straight right hand down the pipe a lot more. Does Andy Ruiz have a good straight right hand down the pipe? Well, again, in the Chris Arreola fight, I think he showed improved mobility, and he did show some nice straight shots down the pipe. Luis Ortiz really likes to counter with that fast left hand. So when you throw your straight right, you have to be careful of the counter. And where Andy Ruiz showed good lateral movement or improved lateral movement against Chris Arreola, did he really show good defense when he was up on his toes in terms of head movement after he throws his shot? So typically with a defensively astute fighter against the southpaw, if he's going to throw that lead right hand, he's going to roll underneath the expected left. Right? He's going to make some type of defensive maneuver, either get a hand up to block it, but preferably when you're dealing with a heavyweight southpaw who can punch like Ortiz, you really want to get out the way. You don't want to rely on blocking shots, because then he could start hitting you in the body. He can start doing different things with the left hand. He can know where you are after you throw your right and set you up for something. So you really want to get out the way. You want to roll underneath, You want to step to the side. You want to step out. You don't want to be in the danger zone to receive that counter. Can Andy Ruiz do that? Will he have the legs that he showed against Chris Arreola? I think it's an interesting fight, but I do think that Andy Ruiz really should be winning this one. If it weren't for the vulnerability in terms of punch resistance that Ruiz showed against Arreola, I reckon 90% of people would be picking him in this fight. It's only because of the vulnerability of punch resistance that it might be a bit more even. I reckon it might be 60-40 in terms of the number of people picking Andy Ruiz over Luis Ortiz. Not sure it'll be quite 50-50, but maybe 60-40. So that's my take on it. I think it's an interesting enough fight. Andy Ruiz should win, at least in my mind. And he needs to be active, more active than this, moving forward if he manages to get past Luis Ortiz. Will he then face Deontay Wilder? That would be a good one. That's a fight I've always liked. Andy Ruiz versus Deontay Wilder. So let me know what you guys think about it all in the comments below.